Right now, an extremely dangerous winter storm is developing across the United States, and the situation is becoming more serious with every passing hour. What began as a fairly typical winter system has rapidly evolved into something much larger, much stronger, and far more disruptive than initially expected. Over the last day alone, weather models have shifted significantly, and those changes have pushed the most severe impacts into heavily populated areas. This is no longer just a routine winter storm. This is shaping up to be a widespread, high-impact event with the potential to cause major travel disruptions, prolonged power outages, and dangerous conditions across a large portion of the country. What makes this storm especially concerning is how quickly it's intensifying. In just the last 24 hours, the projected track has moved north, placing millions more people directly in the path of freezing rain, heavy snow, and extreme cold. The storm is also slowing down, which means its impacts will linger far longer than most winter systems. And when a storm like this stalls, the consequences multiply. Right now, cold Arctic air is locked in place across much of the central and eastern United States. At the same time, a surge of warm, moisture-rich air is pushing north from the Gulf. When these two air masses collide, it creates a dangerous setup where precipitation falls into sub-freezing air near the surface. That's how freezing rain forms. And that's why this storm is drawing so much concern from meteorologists. Unlike snow, which can be plowed or cleared, freezing rain coats everything it touches in a thick layer of ice. Roads become nearly impossible to drive on. Trees and power lines bend under the weight. Infrastructure begins to fail. And when ice continues falling for hours at a time, damage becomes inevitable. As this storm begins to unfold, the first impacts are already being felt across the southern plains. By late Friday morning, light freezing rain begins developing across parts of the Texas Panhandle and western Oklahoma. At first, it may not look severe. In many places, it will simply appear as wet pavement or light drizzle. But temperatures at the surface are already cold enough for ice to form, especially on elevated surfaces like bridges and overpasses. That's often when the first accidents happen, catching drivers off guard before they realize how slick the roads have become. Farther south, places like Dallas and Abilene initially see cold rain, which can be misleading. It creates the impression that conditions are manageable, even though colder air is already moving in. As temperatures continue to drop, that rain begins freezing on contact and conditions deteriorate quickly. This transition period is one of the most dangerous parts of any winter storm because it happens fast and with very little warning. By Friday afternoon, freezing rain becomes more widespread across northern Texas and Oklahoma. The precipitation intensifies and ice begins to accumulate steadily. At the same time, snow starts to develop farther north across Kansas and parts of Missouri. This is the point where the storm begins to show its true strength. As the evening approaches, the situation worsens dramatically. Freezing rain spreads eastward, and the transition zone between rain, sleet, and snow becomes increasingly unstable. Temperatures hover just below freezing, allowing ice to build layer by layer. Tree limbs begin to sag, power lines start to ice over. Travel conditions deteriorate rapidly. By Friday night, large portions of the southern and central United States are dealing with hazardous conditions. Freezing rain continues across northern Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and into parts of Tennessee. Snowfall intensifies to the north, with several inches already on the ground in some areas. Emergency crews begin responding to crashes, downed power lines, and reports of outages. And this is still only the beginning. As the storm moves into Saturday, it reaches its most dangerous phase. A wide corridor of freezing rain sets up from eastern Texas through Arkansas, western Tennessee, and into Kentucky. Ice accumulation in this region could exceed half an inch, and in some isolated areas, it could approach or even surpass an inch. That amount of ice is devastating. At that level, tree branches snap under their own weight. Power lines fail. Roads become impassable. Entire neighborhoods can lose electricity for extended periods of time. And with temperatures remaining well below freezing, restoring power becomes far more difficult. At the same time, heavy snow continues to fall north of the ice zone. Areas across Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio begin to see snowfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour. This is the kind of snow that piles up quickly, reducing visibility to near zero and making travel extremely dangerous. If you want real-time updates on this storm and everything developing next, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We'll be tracking this system closely, breaking down the latest data, and bringing you daily and severe weather updates as conditions change. Stay informed, stay prepared, and I'll keep you updated. By Saturday morning, some locations are already buried under several inches of snow, with much more still to come. Snowplows struggle to keep up, and travel becomes nearly impossible in many areas. As the day goes on, the storm expands even farther. Snow spreads into the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic, while freezing rain continues to hammer areas farther south. Cities like Little Rock, Memphis, and Nashville find themselves in the worst possible position, cold enough for ice, but not cold enough for snow to accumulate cleanly. This is where the most significant damage often occurs. Ice continues to build, hour after hour. Power outages become more widespread. Trees fall onto roads and homes. Emergency services become stretched thin as conditions worsen. By Saturday night, the storm pushes eastward, bringing heavy snow into Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and parts of Virginia. Some areas could see totals exceeding 10 to 15 inches before the system finally begins to weaken. Meanwhile, freezing rain threatens portions of the Carolinas and the Mid-Atlantic, creating the potential for significant icing in regions that are not well equipped to handle it. And just when it seems like the worst might be over, another threat emerges. Behind the storm, a surge of Arctic air pours southward, sending temperatures plummeting across much of the country. Wind chills in the northern plains and Midwest could drop as low as 40 to 60 degrees below zero. Even in the southern states, overnight temperatures fall into the teens and single digits. This extreme cold makes everything worse. Ice melts slowly. Power restoration becomes more dangerous. Pipes freeze. Heating systems struggle to keep up with demand, and for anyone without reliable heat, conditions quickly become life-threatening. What makes this storm particularly concerning is not just the snow totals or ice accumulation, but the combination of factors all happening at once. The storm is slow-moving. It covers a massive area. It produces multiple types of hazardous weather. And it's followed by extreme cold. These are the kinds of storms people remember for years. And according to long-range forecasts, this pattern may not break anytime soon. Additional systems could follow in the coming days as cold air remains locked in place across much of the country. For now, the most important thing is preparation. If you're anywhere in the path of this storm, now is the time to act. Make sure you have food, water, and essential supplies. Charge your devices. Avoid unnecessary travel. Prepare for the possibility of power outages in difficult conditions lasting longer than expected. This is a rapidly developing situation, and updates will continue as new information becomes available. Stay aware, stay prepared, and above all, stay safe.